everyone, today I've got my Wonder Woman 1984 movie review. The wait is finally over, and I have to say, I'm really sorry that it took me 2 months to literally review this, but I had seen this movie at least 5 times, so I think I pretty much know what I was going to say about it. So, is this Wonder Woman sequel worth watching? So as far as the story goes, Patty Jenkins returns to direct this DC movie that has been released on HBO Max as well as the theaters after years of being in release date hell. I mean, I don't even know what the original date was supposed to be at this point, but I guess it doesn't really matter. As long as they released it eventually, that's all that matters. After enjoying the first movie, I couldn't wait to see this next installment, and it had a lot to live up to, especially because the first movie was just so enjoyable. I think I gave that movie at least a perfect score of 5 out of 5. Especially after watching all those Wonder Woman 1984 trailers and hearing all that 80s music, I was really just getting super pumped to see this movie. It starts out as this brightly lit movie that cues to this first thrilling scene of the Themyscira Olympic Games, and that looked pretty cool. And even though it did have a lot of noticeable CGI, you know, the takeaway was a very powerful message about truth is all there is to think about throughout the rest of the movie. Right off the bat, it took the 80s theme to a literal extreme with the fashion, the set design, the music, sort of. I think that's where certain elements start to go downhill. I mean, I'm sorry, it just seemed a little bit out of place to be set in the 80s, even though that was, you know, just a new concept altogether for a movie like this. And while I was curious to see where this movie was gonna go, the plot was all over the place, and it didn't seem to have this cohesiveness to it, and also at times didn't really make sense in the overall DCU. I mean, they're talking about how this is sort of like a one-off, like completely unrelated to the actual timeline of the DCU. I mean, it's so confusing, and it really confused me because being a DC fan, I wanted it to sort of make sense from the get-go. And it centers around this dream stone that has the power to grant wishes, and you see what happens when the wishes go too far. I mean, some people probably wish they didn't see this movie, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So as far as the casting goes, you've got Gal Gadot, who returns as Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, and she's back and better than ever. I mean, I love Gal Gadot. I mean, that's why I feel like she's such an inspiration to play such an iconic character. And also, my friends, I have to give a shout out to those who do nickname me Wonder Woman, and it's not just because I'm wearing this outfit, but because she just brought something new to this character and something that we hadn't seen, you know, before. And then you've got Chris Pine, who we saw was going to be returning in this movie, as well as Steve Trevor, but maybe not in the way you would expect. And I know it pissed a lot of people off with the way that he returned, and it did take me by surprise, I'm not gonna lie, with how they accomplished that task. And, you know, I've heard so many people argue that the way he returned was in poor taste, but I'm not going to get into it per se. Seeing Steve Trevor back was nice because now he's the one that's a fish out of water, like Diana was in his world in the first movie. You've got Kristen Wiig, who is Barbara Minerva, and she reminded me so much of Michelle Pfeiffer's character from Batman Returns, with her mousy behavior that contrasted Diana until she turned into Cheetah to match up with Wonder Woman, and she just looked so perfect. And I liked how, you know, she could pull off playing this comedic / serious performance. I mean, I've seen it before in some of her previous roles, but this, I think, was pretty good for her. Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord was charismatic and exciting to watch on screen, especially when he's motivated to try and build up his company and say, this is the way, on taking over the world with the power of a certain magical object. but he was also juggling this relationship with his kid that added a certain quality to his character that you may want to sympathize with. But while we also see the return of certain Amazons played by Connie Nielsen and Robin Wright, I would have to say, I think the cherry on top of this movie had to be the Linda Carter cameo, who plays Asteria, and that just put a geeky grin on my face. So the things I liked about this movie was, right off the bat, I noticed how beautiful this movie was, and I feel like Patty Jenkins definitely excels with telling a story in such a beautiful way, and I felt like it was very timely with what was going on in the world today. And I know I had seen this movie quite a few times, so a lot of things had happened, in, today's, in present day with the election and the Capitol riots and just seeing all of that. I mean, this was definitely a movie that you had to see for that reason alone, just to get away from all of that, the escapism. And y'all don't understand the impact that Hans Zimmer music, especially with the musical score, has on this movie. I mean, I listen to it all the time because it just added to so many scenes, whether they were exciting or emotional moments, and they also reused a certain Batman v Superman track. And I'm not gonna lie, I cried a few times watching this movie, especially when it came to Diana's growth as a character or her interactions with Steve. I mean, I was just bawling my eyes out. Like, you could literally fill a bucket with my tears. And the invisible jet scene was so cool. I'm not gonna tell you how it went down, but it was just so amazing how they were able to pull such an iconic scene off too. But unfortunately, the things that I didn't really like about this movie was that the amount of action was minimal, so you're probably going to be really unimpressed with the fact that there's not much Wonder Woman action going on, especially with what was shown in the trailers. That was pretty much what was featured in the movie, which I didn't have a huge problem with at the end of the day, but I was expecting a little bit more. And when the focus was on the story, at times it came off as soap opera-y, and some of the comedic bits fell flat, and certain scenes were played up with the cheesiness. I mean, what is this, a Marvel movie? Like the mall scene. And because there was a lack in Wonder Woman scenes versus Diana scenes, I mean, come on, they don't call this Diana Prince 1984, they call this Wonder Woman 1984. And the CGI, like I said from the beginning of the movie, I feel like was noticeable throughout, and it kind of came off as fake looking. For example, a scene where Diana had a special ability that hadn't been seen or used before. So I think, I don't know, like, you had plenty of time to, go back and, edit this movie and, figure all that stuff out, but, don't make the pandemic an excuse to, sort of just rush release it when there were so many release dates. But I'm not going to get into that because that's just going to piss me off. So overall, I would say that I still love this movie, despite what some of the negative reviews said, but I'm not going to hate on people who didn't like this movie. And we'll see where things go for Wonder Woman 3. So I would still recommend seeing this movie, but I know a lot of people will maybe not enjoy it as much as I did, but that's okay. So I would give this 3.5 hearts on the heart rate scale. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Wonder Woman 1984, and as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates, come back every week for a Chill Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys later.